From the Fantasy Armchair, it is the Fantasy TyRant.
Hey there, fellow fantasy football freaks. Welcome back. Hopefully you saw part 1 of my top 50. If you haven't already, take a look at the top of the screen there. You'll see a little link. Click that, watch that first, then come back here. Or you can watch it out of order if you want, I don't care. But anyway, not going to waste much more of your time. Just don't forget to take a sec to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so you don't miss any of the best fantasy football content on YouTube. And without further ado, here you go. The remainder of my top 50, number 21 through 50. At number 21, I'm looking at Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Alright, Torrey Horton fans, cool your jets. Horton will be an interesting prospect to keep an eye on, but no, this offense is going to be all about the run and JSN. I don't expect the Seattle offense to wow anyone, but JSN will get the bulk of the targets. The Seahawks added Cooper Kupp in the offseason, but this is not the Cooper Kupp we all came to know and love. His speed and agility have dropped off, and I don't think he'll take as much away from JSN as people are thinking. Some people are worried about Kupp taking over the slot and JSN moving to the outside, and while I think JSN will see more targets on the outside than he's accustomed to, another offseason working specifically on that transition might just pay off. He was the wide receiver 9 last season, and I see no reason to move him down very much at all. I think DK Metcalf was more of a target hawk than Kupp will be. I might even put him above Ladd before the season starts. Sign up with me on Patreon to see. The link is down there in the description. Alright, enough shameless self-promotion. At number 22, I got T. Higgins. Can the Bengals offense under the helm of Joe Burrow sustain 2 wide receiver 1s? Well, on a per-game basis, they did just that last season. Chase was the wide receiver 1, and Higgins was the wide receiver 6. That's incredible, but not hard to believe, really. Burrow drops back to pass, it's going for a touchdown to one of these 2 guys. Bank on it. Chase and Higgins may be the best wide receiver duo in NFL history when all is said and done, and this season, you could get a wide receiver 2 with easy wide receiver 1 upside with Higgins. The Bengals D still sucks, and Joe Burrow slinging that rock like a DC crack dealer. All day and night, every day and night. I like Chase Brown and think that he could be knocking on the door of top 10 running back status this season, but the passing game is where the Bengals' bread is buttered. And Higgins is more like a 1B to the 1A of the best wide receiver in fantasy. Don't pass Higgins up. At number 23, I got Josh Jacobs. What can I say? I ended up being wrong about this guy last season. I thought we'd see a drop-off in production with him moving to a pass-first offense, but Jacobs made me look like a jackass. That bad call made me more embarrassed than an adulterous CEO at a Coldplay concert. Yeah, you know I was going there eventually. But hey, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. The point is to learn from them. Jacobs is a top 10 running back talent after all. Got it. And this season, I see him rolling right along. The offense in Green Bay is quite balanced with playmakers at every position, but none of them will get the workload of Jacobs. He's by far the most reliable asset, and they know it. He was the running back 5 last season, and while I think there's some players that are going to leapfrog him this season, barring injury, Jacobs is a lock as a top 10 running back for me. Number 24, Trey McBride. The Cardinals are a team of mystery this season, with many questions surrounding them. Will Marvin Harrison break out after a relatively disappointing rookie campaign? Who's going to end the season as the team's top running back? Connor or Benson? And how long will it be before Kyler Murray shatters like glass? But one thing about the Cardinals you don't have to question is the production of tight end Trey McBride. He's the only sure thing on this team. We knew coming into the league that this guy was special, and he hasn't disappointed like other hyped players on this team. Like most tight ends, he was quiet in his first season, but the last 2 years, he's been a solid tight end for fantasy owners. He was a locked-in tight end 2 last season despite only catching 2 touchdowns, although he did actually run in a 3rd touchdown for some reason. But he was second in fantasy points per game, targets, receptions, and yardage. Talk about consistency. Add in a few more tutties, and he could easily be the tight end 1 this season. Tight end is a difficult position to get consistent, high-level production out of, so if you want to reach up to the end of the 2nd round to get him, I wouldn't blame you. The guy's a stud. Number 25, Mike Evans. And we end the first half of my top 50 with the Derrick Henry of wide receivers, Mike Evans. Every year analysts are like, this is the year Evans takes a step back. He's past his prime. He's a flex play now at best. Blah, 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 blah. Except your boy, the TyRant. I've been telling you each year that those other schmucks have it all wrong. I've been consistently ranking him higher than practically anyone else, and if anything, he's outproduced even my rankings. He's been a high-end wide receiver 2 or better in all but 2 seasons since his rookie year back in 2014. Entering his 12th season in the league, he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down, as he was tied for 10th in fantasy points per game among wideouts last season, 14th overall. And you can't ask for better durability, as he's only missed 5 regular season games due to injury over his 11 seasons in the league. Consistent, reliable, high-level production is what we've got from Mike Evans year after year. And with Chris Godwin hobbled and Jalen McMillan not making the cut, the only real competition for targets right away is rookie sensation Emeka Egbuka. And while I think the kid's got the chops to be a stud receiver, I still think Evans is the top dog on this team and will get the stud share of the targets from Baker Mayfield. I think the middle of the 3rd round is a great place to get him, but you might be able to wait until the 4th. Could be a big steal if you can get him there. At number 26, I got Lamar Jackson. In the first video, I opened up talking about the remarkable feat of Ja'Marr Chase and his top 4 fantasy performance all time for wide receivers. I also mentioned that he was number 2 overall in fantasy points, second to, that's right, Lamar Jackson. And if you thought that record was impressive, this video kicks it up a notch because we're talking about the all-time record holder for fantasy points among QBs in a season, scoring a batshit insane 430.4 fantasy points just last season, beating out Josh Allen by damn near 50 points. Lamar Jackson is the blueprint for mobile quarterbacks, the diamond standard. If it weren't for his injury history, he'd be a perennial top 3 fantasy QB, and at this point, only an injury could take him out of the top spot. The Ravens designed the blueprint for how you get the most out of a mobile QB as they built their whole team around his skill set. And other than bringing home a ring, I'd say they've been pretty successful. And that ring might be coming soon. For fantasy purposes, getting the offensive player on the highest scoring offense in the league that said offense is built around couldn't be more ideal. Gonna cost you a 3rd round pick though if he drops that far. I think he's worth the investment though. At number 27, Chase Brown. Most of us analysts have been all over this talented running back since last season, and if you were savvy enough to listen, you were rewarded with the running back 10 at a discount price. This season, he ain't no hidden gem. Everyone knows he's a stud, so you gotta get him early. I might move him up a little bit over the weekend in my final preseason rankings because I haven't seen him drop far past the 2nd round, usually around the 2nd, 3rd round turn. I think he's worth it if you want to make a reach for him there. The Bengals are a top 10 scoring offense, and Brown is the bell cow back. Quick, name the 2nd back on the Bengals depth chart. No, it isn't Taj Brooks. Yeah, it's hard to recall because he's barely relevant. It's Samaje Perine for the record, and frankly, I have yet to see him drafted in a redraft league, even in an 18-teamer. The point is, Chase Brown has the backfield all to himself on a prolific offense. Last season, he was sharing touches with Zach Moss and still eked out solid running back 1 production. With practically no competition for carries this season, the Chase Brown breakout could continue, especially in PPR, as last season he was the 6th most targeted running back and 5th in receptions. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to move him up my ranks here a little bit. He could be a top 5 running back this season, and that's not hyperbole. Number 28, Jonathan Taylor. Taylor's a stud running back on a team that's just a damn mess. There are some truly talented pieces to this offense, it's just too bad QB isn't one of them. Every unit needs a leader, but it spells disaster when your options are Anthony Richardson, who probably just injured himself during this broadcast, or Danny Pennies, who probably trips every time he walks to the front door, like he's football's equivalent of Jack Tripper from Three's Company. Damn, that was a great show. So unfortunately, the foreseeable futility of the Colts offense really hinders JT's potential, dropping him to borderline running back 1 status. Last season, the offense wasn't great either, but Taylor still managed to produce as a solid running back 1, as he was 7th in fantasy points per game for running backs, 12th overall. So I still think he could be an RB1, just a low-end one. If you can get him as your 2nd running back and still snag a stud wide receiver within the first 3 rounds, you're killing it in your draft. Number 29, Kyren Williams. The disrespect of this guy over the past couple seasons is inexcusable. He's constantly ranked as a middling running back by those dipshits who somehow make more money than I do analyzing fantasy football. I don't get it. He's been the running back 7 now in his first 2 years in the league, and he's still being ranked outside the top 12 by analysts. It makes no sense. Hell, the fact that I have him at 12 is a travesty. I might have to move him ahead of JT before the weekend is out. Will I do it? The only way to find out is to sign up with me on Patreon. And for only $5 a month, you get full access to my weekly updated rankings, bonus content, and all the one-on-one fantasy advice you need to crush your league. We're talking trade strategies, waiver wire help, roster building, tips and tricks, sits and starts, and so much more. The link's down there in the description. Get your own pocket guru today. Alright, enough of the shameless plug. Where was I? Oh yeah. We keep hearing about the other guys like Blake Corum and Jarquez Hunter, but Kyren proves that he has the chops to be a bell cow back every year. And here in year 3, I see nothing different. Now Matthew Stafford is starting to show his age, and that might hold the offense back a little as a whole, but I still think Kyren Williams is an RB1 more than he is an RB2. Other analysts be damned. Stick with me if you want the gold. At number 30, Scary Terry McLaurin. Every year analysts get scared, no pun intended, of the holdout guys and the trade me guys, and every year a large majority of them sign with their team. It's all negotiation tactics, but so many people seem to fall for it like an Alzheimer's patient on April Fool's Day. So while everyone else is unsure, I was getting Scary Terry as a wide receiver 3 or even wide receiver 4. Well, now that he's signed a deal, his ADP is sure to move up in a hurry. But I've had him hovering around the wide receiver 15 spot since the beginning of training camp. It took Scary Terry a few years to get it going, but he had a mini breakout in his 4th season as the wide receiver 14 in 2022. Then took a step back in 2023, but then had a true breakout last season with a competent QB in Jayden Daniels, rocketing him up to the wide receiver 7 in PPR. The addition of Deebo Samuel and the likely continued development of young talented tight end Ben Sinnott, as well as the presence of Zach Ertz, who's still got gas in the tank, will all cap Scary Terry's target share, but this is a team on the rise, so the overreaction with this guy is nonsensical. Yeah, that's a word, look it up. Another guy I have to consider moving up over the weekend. If you can get him in the 3rd, 4th round turn, I think he's a steal. Number 31, Garrett Wilson. What do you do with a highly talented wide receiver in an offense that makes basically no effort in trying to utilize his talents? I'm sorry, but Justin Fields is not the answer for this guy. He'd likely be a top 5 wide receiver if he had a half-decent quarterback chucking him the ball, but he's got Justin Fields. After an aging Aaron Rodgers and a 3-way quarterback battle between Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White that had all the intensity and excitement of a toddler hockey fight, he gets Justin motherfucking Fields. Man, I really feel sorry for this kid. He could be a superstar on almost any other team, but he got stuck with the Jets' carnival of horse shit. Despite that, last season, he still managed to pull out a wide receiver 1 level of production, ranking 10th in fantasy points among wideouts. Jets head coach Aaron Glenn's coaching staff isn't exactly a who's who of assistant coaches, more like a who cares. A whole new offense with basically no identity. They're essentially going to control the clock with Fields, focusing on the run game, grinding it out, and hopefully winning methodically, though they probably won't. All that sounds like a fantasy point desert, hence the low rank for Wilson. For dynasty purposes, I really hope he gets traded. He's too good to be ranked this low. Poor guy. Number 32, Davante Adams. An aging star QB gets help from an aging star wide receiver. All this really does is hurt my Puka stock. I still think Adams has some left, but this might actually be too high for him. And even here, if you wait until the 4th round, you're likely not going to get him. He's being taken way too high in my opinion. Yeah, on a shitty-ass Raiders team, he still managed a borderline wide receiver 1 type season, but Jacoby Myers ain't no Puka Nacua. And yeah, sure, Stafford's a better QB than, all the Raiders QBs last season, including his very own backup this season, Jimmy G. But Adams is definitely the wide receiver 2 behind Nacua in this offense, and it ain't even close. Add in the fact that he's 32, and this is where the wide receivers tend to decline, if not sooner. I might move some guys ahead of him over the weekend for my final rankings as I close my 2025 draft analysis.
Either way, draft him with caution. Might take a stud QB or tight end here instead. Number 33, Josh Allen. Before Lamar Jackson broke the mold last season, Josh Allen was the perennial first QB chosen for the previous few years. And last season, he was the QB2, only behind the record-setting numbers of Jackson, even with his top target being Khalil Shakir. And check out his second most targeted player. What the fuck? Is this for real? Anyway, the point is, Allen is a tier 1 fantasy QB, even if his receiving core is about as vaunted as a middle school jazz band. I'm hearing good things about Allen's connections with Keon Coleman, as well as newcomer to the team, Josh Palmer. I've always liked Palmer. Maybe he's finally found a place he'll fit in. Dalton Kincaid may be poised for a bounce-back year as well. Regardless, Allen can take lemons and turn them into champagne. Plus, if all else fails, he'll just run for a first down. I don't see anything stopping Allen from being a top 2 QB yet again. Number 34 is Jayden Daniels. This is the one guy I felt like I didn't have enough of last season or in Dynasty before the season began. So when he ended the season as the QB5, you know I was kicking myself hard for not being more hyped up on this dude. I knew this was his potential, but I wasn't sure that with this team, he would reach it in year 1. I've heard lots of people say that he's a one-year wonder, then he'll be like the next RG3. Hey, just because he's on the same team and ended his rookie season also as the QB5 doesn't mean he too is destined to fall off faster than Wile E. Coyote on a cliff. He's surrounded by better talent than RG3 had. It seems like Washington learned their lesson and decided to follow the Baltimore blueprint and build a team around their franchise mobile QB and a playbook that best utilizes his talents without running them into the ground. Scary Terry just signed, and Deebo Samuel's talking a lot of best shape of his life talk. Ertz still looks good, and Ben Sinnott will take another step forward this season. With so many weapons at his disposal, and none better than his own 2 legs, as he gained the second most rushing yards for QBs last season, second only to Lamar. I definitely see a lot more of a Lamar Jackson type here than RG3. But who am I to know? The best damn fantasy analyst in the biz, that's who. He's a value at the end of round 3, beginning of round 4. Number 35, George Kittle. Every year, Kittle gets rated as a middling tight end by the other guys, only to have me tell you he's worth much more than that, and he's been a top 5 tight end in fantasy points every damn year that he's been in the league. Finally, this season, seems like the rest of those guys have caught up to me, but among the drafters, I'm still seeing some hesitation. As one jackass on Facebook was arguing with me that no tight end is worth taking before round 6 or 7. And after I laughed in his stupid face for a couple minutes, I told him that the gap between a tier 1 tight end, one of the top 3, and tier 2 was about as wide as his mom's, well, you get the picture. Seriously though, the top 3 guys only have a 0.3 points per game difference between them all. Then it's a 2 or more point drop to the next tier. 2 points per game is a big difference and worth paying up a little bit for. With basically the entire Niners wide receiver core either gone or hobbled this season, Kittle could easily be the top tight end in the league, and you can usually get him in the 4th round of your drafts. At 36, I got Jalen Hurts. I always seem to be higher up on Hurts than most of the analysts, and I'm not sure why everyone wants to peg him as a QB5 or worse every year. He was the QB3 in 2022 and the QB2 in 2023. He had a concussion late last season and that took him out of the fantasy playoffs, dropping him down to the QB8. But he was on pace to be a top 4 QB once again. Maybe the other analysts are just scorned by his untimely exit, I don't know. But this team hasn't changed much, and I expect the machine to run even smoother this season. Brown, Smith, and Goddard are all elite pass catchers at their positions, and Hurts' ability to run, including piling up touchdowns with the tush push, makes him fantasy football gold. Yeah, they throw less than any other team in the NFL, and Saquon Barkley wrests loads of carries away from Hurts, but they're a high-powered, high-scoring offense, and being the mobile QB at the helm of a team like that is pure gold for fantasy. If you wait on QB and he drops to you in round 5, don't let him drop any further. At 37, it's Omarion Hampton. Ashton Genty is the obvious choice when predicting this season's Rookie of the Year, but if anyone can buck that trend when the dust is settled, it's Omarion Hampton. He was already getting high praise in the Chargers locker room and front office before Captain Harris got in a fight with a firecracker. There was even talk of a full-on backfield split. So now that Hampton will start the season as the top back for the Bolts, his stock is through the roof. We all know Jim Harbaugh is an old-school style coach who's going to emphasize the run, so if Hampton shows the same flash as he did in his season at North Carolina, where he was the number 3 running back in the nation in terms of yardage, he's a top 10 back for me. One-eyed Najee will be back at some point, but unless Hampton disappoints, Harris will only be second in command. This is Hampton's job for the taking, and if I were a bet man, and you know I am, I'll bet on Hampton being the top back in that backfield, as well as a borderline running back 1 by the season's end. Number 38, TreVeon Henderson. Speaking of highly touted rookies who can make an impact early on, Hendo's another threat to Gentry's Rookie of the Year bid. In only a slightly less desirable situation than Hampton, Henderson finds himself on a Patriots team on the rise, putting their heyday behind them and focusing on the new era, the Drake May and Trey Henderson era. May looked the part as the season went on in 2024, and now they've got a stud running back to complement them. Hendo is a dynamic, explosive back who can also hold his own as a receiving back as well. A true stud at running back, something the Patriots haven't had in a long time, since, Corey Dillon maybe. There's skepticism about his durability and whether or not he can be a true bell cow back, as he's never had more than 183 carries in a season at Ohio State, and no more than 12 carries in a game last year. But all the buzz from training camp and watching him perform in preseason tells me the Pats were utilizing him early and often.
And if he can indeed handle such a workload, he'll be a bona fide running back 1 in no time. At number 39, I got Tyreek Hill.
I was a year early on predicting his drop-off, but I knew it was coming. Yeah, I know Tua's health is the main factor, which is why I don't have Hill ranked lower. But even when Tua was out there, he was only scoring 12.4 fantasy points per game. And while that's a huge improvement over the paltry 7.6 fantasy points per game he got when Tua was out, that would still have only been good enough for the wide receiver 35 on the season. Yeah, I think with a fully healthy Tua and full confidence pumped into this offense, Hill can reach wide receiver 2 status once again this season, so long as Tua remains healthy. But his days of wide receiver 1 production are behind him. I may be too high on him here, but he really could have a bounce-back season. Maybe not close to his old self, but better than last year. I'm still drafting him, but with extreme caution and a little bit of hesitance. Low-end wide receiver 2 seems to be the right spot for him. At number 40, I got Kenneth Walker. This is one of my value picks for this draft, where Walker can be taken as a steal. He has the potential to flirt with running back 1 status, as the Seahawks will be a slightly improved offense this season. They also finally got some help on the O-line, but for some reason, that's gone completely under the radar, and analysts are still treating Kenneth Walker like he'll be rushing behind last year's Sea Chickens O-line that had more holes in it than the Game of Thrones final season. Is that reference dated? Alright, let me try this. How about more holes than Donald Trump's golf game? Is that better? Anyway, while I do think Zach Charbonnet is a force that cannot be ignored, I still think Walker will command nearly 2/3 of the touches in the backfield as he did last season when he was healthy. While I do like him better in standard, I still think he's a mid-level RB2 rather than a high-end RB3 where he's being drafted. Number 41, Joe Burrow. Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, and a mediocre defense. Do I really need to say more? I mean, no, he's not going to get you the bonus rushing yards like the first 4 QBs on the list, but this is the best pure pocket passer in the league. As a passer, he was number 1 in yardage, number 1 in touchdowns, number 1 in attempts, number 1 in completions, and number 3 in both completion percentage and QB rating for quarterbacks who played all 17 games. How is he not the MVP? Because he's got 2 superstars at wide receiver, including the cock of the walk Ja'Marr Chase? Well, for fantasy purposes, he was definitely a VIP at least, scoring the 3rd most fantasy points in the league. So why do I have him at the QB5? The lack of mobility plays a factor. I mean, he's no Bernie Kosar, if you know, you know. But he was only the 22nd in the league in rushing attempts among QBs last season. The other factor is the Bengals O-line's still garbage, and they didn't do a lot to improve one of the worst offensive lines in the league. Burrow was the 5th most sacked QB last season, and that worries me. Yeah, he's durable, but he ain't made of titanium. The risk of injury is definitely baked into the ranking here. If you do draft Burrow, you may have to invest in some insurance later on, like Brock Purdy or Jordan Love or CJ Stroud. Worth it though, because as long as he's healthy, you're getting a top tier QB at a bargain. Number 42, Jameson Williams. Alright, for these last guys, I'm not going to say quite as much because this video is getting pretty long already. But if you want real in-depth analysis for all players, sign up with me on Patreon. Anyway, yeah, I'm on the JMO breakout bandwagon, and in fact, I've been the driver of that bandwagon since last season. He shaped up, dropped the tude, but kept the intensity, and that broke him into wide receiver 2 territory last season. This season, with the Lions' new OC John Morton focusing a lot on the pass game, I see JMO taking another step up and flirting with wide receiver 1 numbers in some games. Don't sleep on him. Number 43, Alvin Kamara. Kinda in the same boat as King Henry, where he's past the 30 mark but still playing on a high level. Even I was down on him last year, and he managed to end the season as the running back 9. So why am I down on him again this season? Well, for one, I'm not that far down on him, but yeah, part of it is his age. But the difference between him and King Henry is that the Saints are actively trying to find Kamara's heir apparent. They've invested a lot of time in Kendre Miller, and if the dude can just remain healthy, he could be a Bucky Irving-like breakout star. And then they went and drafted Devin Neal, who could usurp Miller if he gets hurt again. The writing is on the wall, but Kamara will keep his job so long as he doesn't get hurt or run into that wall. So I still like him as a mid-level RB2. Number 44, Breece Hall. He was supposed to be the next big thing at running back, but then he went to the Jets, and that kills careers faster than a botched rebranding. And now they've got another young running back they like in Braylon Allen, who dug into Hall's production last season. On top of that, the Jets have talked about wanting to use all 3 of their backs like a 3-headed committee, Isaiah Davis being the 3rd. I still think Hall is the 1A, but even as talented and quick as he is, on the Jets, that doesn't seem like much of a consolation. They supposedly have a better offense this season, but I'll believe it when I see it. Though getting a player with RB1 upside at a mid or low RB2 price makes him an intriguing prospect. Better not be a running back 1 though. Number 45, Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton is basically the Toyota Camry of wide receivers. Nothing flashy, not going to catch your eye, nothing particularly special about him, but he gets the job done without making too much noise in the process. Reliable, gets you where you need to go. Now wait, which one am I talking about? I don't remember. I do like Toyotas. But anyway, Bo Nix is the real deal. He helped Sutton quietly become the wide receiver 15 overall last season in PPR. And I'm only down on him this year because I expect more action from the backfield, with the additions of the undervalued but over-injured J.K. Dobbins and rookie sensation R.J. Harvey. Also, Bo Nix has been hooking up a lot with his old college fling. Okay, now this sounds like an episode of Beverly Hills 90210 or some shit. I don't mean it like that. I mean his fellow Duck and main target at Oregon, Troy Franklin. Franklin's actually someone you might hear me talk about during my 2-hour special Tinker Stinker Power Hour kickoff show a week from Sunday, where I'll reveal my top sleepers as well as my Double Deep Danger Dive of the Year. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't forget. Anyway, Sutton is solid. That's the takeaway here. Number 46, Marvin Harrison Jr. I highly anticipate Marv to outplay his ADP as well as my ranking here, but that's up to the inconsistent and off-injured Kyler Murray. This is one of the biggest boom-bust plays in fantasy football this season. Obviously, he's got the chops, the talent, the pedigree, the college numbers, the DNA. He's got it all. But will that translate to superstardom in the NFL? This could be a breakout season, but if not, does the word bust start getting whispered? I hope not, because I've got a lot of shares of this guy. He was the wide receiver 30 last season, so I definitely project him to improve. But this ranking is more of the median and where I think he'll land, because he's either going to knock on the door of wide receiver 1 numbers, or he's going to stay a middling wide receiver 3. So that's why I'm drafting him kind of in the middle there. Number 47, R.J. Harvey. There's so much hype on this kid, and for good reason. For one thing, the only player standing in his way of RB production is J.K. Dobbins, so once he gets injured, R.J. Harvey will be the guy. Hey, I wasn't really trying to be cynical there. It's just one of the guarantees in life. Death, taxes, and J.K. Dobbins getting hurt. The thing about Harvey is that his player comparison and skill set are Alvin Kamara. Denver coach Sean Payton, when he was coach of the Saints, fed the fuck out of Kamara in his rookie season, making him the running back 3 that season in the process. Now Peyton's coaching Harvey in his rookie season. Different time, different team, but same philosophy. I might be moving Harvey up my rankings over the weekend. Number 48, DK Metcalf. Does anyone remember last season when I talked about one of the most important factors to consider in fantasy football is volume? And that's the name of the game with this ranking. Volume. I mean, who else is getting the ball in the offense? Other than running backs and maybe some 2 tight end action thrown in with Muth and Jonnu, the Steelers are going to suck and will likely need to throw a lot. Yeah, I know. An aging Aaron Rodgers doesn't exactly pump my nads either, but it's still better than your grandma or even Mason Rudolph out there on the field. He can still throw the ball relatively well, and DK will often be the recipient of those passes. A lot of garbage time points here. DK will capitalize and be a surprise wide receiver too, mark my words. All because of, say it with me, volume. Number 49, Rashee Rice. Hey, I was writing this before I found out that he's going to serve a 6-game suspension at the beginning of the season. I will definitely be moving him down my list, but I will say this. If you can afford to stash him on your bench in round 7, he may be a league winner later in the season. Until then, courage and Xavier Worthy. And finally, number 50, James Cook.
No, not that James Cook, goddammit. Yeah, that's the guy.
James Cook was the RB8 last season, so this seems like a precipitous drop. The thing is, he was super lucky in the touchdown department, scoring 16 on the year, tied for first in the league. His previous seasons, he scored 3 touchdowns and 6 touchdowns, respectively. That will obviously regress to the mean, especially since the Bills coaching staff is really focused on integrating Ray Davis into the running game. There was even talk that Cook might be out the door before they settled on a deal. He's on the lighter side, under 200 pounds, so that raises concerns, as well as the fact that even though he has the skill set to be a pass-catching back, he's underutilizing that skill because Josh Allen would rather throw downfield or scramble for a first down than check it down to the back. I still like him, but probably not as much as your league mates. I'm okay missing out on him this season, but I ain't going to let him fall past the 5th round either. Alright, so there it is, ladies and gents. There's my full top 50, completed, analyzed, all for you, so you can go out there and draft yourself some championship teams. Hey, sign up with me on Patreon, and I'll help you one-on-one through the regular season. But either way, hey, that's it from me until a week from Sunday when I have my 2-hour Tinker Stinker Power Hour special. I'll be going over my deep dives, sleepers, and my double deep danger dive of the season, plus the usual stuff, streaming defenses, streaming kickers, the weather, injury updates, all of that. Although the weather usually doesn't matter so much this time of year because it's pretty much nice everywhere. But anyway, doesn't matter. Point is, I will see you all a week from Sunday. Hey, good luck in your drafts in the meantime. Hopefully this top 50 helped you crush it. Let me know how it turned out. I'll see you all next Sunday. Until then, good luck in your drafts. I'm out. Peace.